Hello, welcome to another episode of Prelude to Positivity with Tommy Geraci. Today I have a special guest for Pride Month, June. You might recognize him from American Idol or his touring with American Idol or his solo work on his own. Jim Verraros is here today and he's joining us via satellite, of course.
Hi, Tommy. How are you?
Really good. We've been trying to plan this for a while and scheduling and all that, but
Yeah,
we got it in for June. We're going to make it for June.
we made it. Let's gay it the hell up. Let's do it.
Yeah. I want to start off by explaining a little bit. Like, you're a singer, you're a songwriter, you have done acting.
Yeah.
You were the only, I think, first and only American Idol contestant to also sign your lyrics when you were doing your audition, I believe. And that was because your parents were both hard of hearing or deaf. And that reminded me of the movie Coda. Have you seen the movie Coda?
Of course, that's literally
Amazing,
my life.
amazing, cool.
Yep.
So for people
Yeah.
that aren't familiar with you, aside from all that,
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up, how you started, how'd you get to that
Yeah.
point? How did
Yeah.
that journey happen?
Well, I mean, again, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. My name is Jim Verraros. I am 42 years old. I grew up in a small suburb outside of Chicago called Crystal Lake. There was probably maybe not more than 35 or 40,000 people. Grew up to two deaf parents. My father was an immigrant from Greece, came over to the US when he was 3 years old. He was born hard of hearing, and my mother actually contracted German measles when she was just 8 or 9 weeks old. So, um, growing up with two deaf parents, I think was very interesting. I grew up pretty quickly because I think, my parents, really relied on me to be their interpreter, for, a myriad of different, reasons, everything ranging from, real estate or doctor appointments or, things that had to do with, bills or anything like that. So, you know, being around adults at a very young age, I think allowed me to grow up very quickly and be very comfortable around adults. And I sort of always was drawn to the stage. I, always sang. My mom would always, be in the car with me, and she'd always be curious to know, what I sounded like. And so she'd always put her hand, on my throat and just sort of feel like the vibrations that it would make. And I did a lot of performing. She always showed up with an interpreter, front row at every, school performance. And uh, I think it just sort of became a part of my DNA. And some might say that a lot of, queer people who sort of endure trauma at a very young age tend to be very drawn to the arts because it's a way for us to sort of escape what's actually happening and take on a different role, a different character, a different being. And that was probably very much the case for me. I think when I stepped on stage, I felt like I was somebody different. And, I was bullied at 13 and 14. And, my brake lines were cut on my car when I was 16 years old. Um, and so I think a lot of that led up to me, I put on a lot of weight when I was about 16, 17. I sort of tried to hide a little bit and went to Monmouth College on a theater scholarship. I was not very good scholastically. I didn't really care so much about my grades. I just wanted to, be in the next production, of whatever musical we were doing. So um, and sort of my life sort of took an interesting turn. I loved Monmouth. It was a small private liberal arts school, but it was smaller than my high school. And I think coming from a small town, I really, really wanted to be around, edge and piercings and tattoos and dancers and actors and people of the arts. And so it felt like a disconnect. And something said to me, Jim, you should get out, like leave the school. And so I transferred to Columbia, which is this very arts focused school in Chicago. And not 2 months after I transferred, a friend of mine had told me about American Idol. And I was never looking to be a pop star. That was never in my wheelhouse. I didn't even think that was possible coming from a small town, particularly as a queer person as well
Yeah.
back then, right? And this is 23 years ago. So a very different climate, both politically and just for our community in general. Um, and so I think I just went for it because Paula was a judge. Paula Abdul was like sort of
Ah,
my draw. And,
yeah.
I will never forget going to the Congress Plaza Hotel on Michigan Avenue, and I walk in, and there is nobody there. There is not a single person there, and someone in a headset came up to me and said, "Oh, hi, are you here for the American Idol auditions?" And I was like, "Yeah." Where do I go? And she was like, "Oh, just have a seat. We're just waiting for more people to show." And I'm like,
It was because it was before all the Idol mania, right? So this wasn't even
"Well,
it had
it was
never been on.
no one, this had never been done, right? So it found its success in the UK. Fox had purchased the rights to bring it to the US. And so nobody knew what it was,
Yeah.
right? So um, I auditioned and you know, I think now there's multiple rounds before you even get to the judges. So I had one round and then I was in front of the judges. I think they asked me about my parents. And of course, I told them I didn't really think it was going to be as a focus as it was. This was a talent show, and so I was fully prepared to just sing.
Yeah.
But Paula had asked me to sign my song and sing it, and I was very sloppy because I was very unprepared. And this wasn't like, America's Next Top, interpreter, right? Like I was just focused on, my vocal. And so I was very sort of focused on signing correctly and properly, but also making sure that I wasn't going to screw up, the lyrics to what I was singing. And so anyway, it worked out okay. And so I ended up being ninth in the country that year. So it was Kelly Clarkson and Justin Guarini, Nikki McKibben, Tamira Gray, RJ Helton, Christina Christian,
Oh,
Ryan
Jesus.
Starr,
That was
AJ
sounds so
Hill, myself, and EJ Day. And we got to tour and we did 30 cities in 40 days. It was a whirlwind of an experience. And then I moved out to LA, tried to sort of make it, right? Without a blueprint, without a how-to. And, I came out publicly with The Advocate and, doing that at a very young age, I think a lot of people had sort of said was very much career suicide and that my career would end before it had even started. But there was something about it that, I couldn't really see myself going to the Abbey, right? Like in LA or holding hands with a guy and worrying about being caught or being exposed. And so, I made the decision to come out publicly. And, this was at a time when we didn't really have representation, right? There wasn't a thing as an openly gay pop American artist. We didn't have that. Um, and I don't think I fully thought it through in terms of what opportunities would be withheld from me for doing that.
and what kind of
I
landslide you
just,
were starting, right? Because
right. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And so I sort of just took it in stride a bit and I thought I would, if I had the right team around me, that we would just sort of figure it out. And so at the time it was very, very focused around Pride events, which were great because it allowed me to sort of, you know, see fans and obviously support our community, be a part of that community. But that's kind of where it all stopped.
right.
And I think the label that signed me in 2005 really didn't know how to package this sort of artist because it really hadn't been done. Um, and luckily, I was able to do a couple of films, Eating Out 2. I did another gay sequel as well. And those were really great because I was able to do kind of what I originally wanted to do, which was more acting and more of the Broadway side of things. Um, and that's a lot of talking, so I should
Okay.
just shut up now. But yeah, I mean, and I've gone through a divorce, remarried, living in Chicago with my husband of 4 years. And, 2 years ago, I was really kind of inspired by where things were at with our community, with film, with media, television, and music. And I just thought, why not put something out? Why not just have fun with it, right? At this stage in my life and, what I've been through, like what would music sound like for me, now? And so in 2023, I put out a single called Take My Bow, and it actually hit number 5 on the commercial pop chart in the UK. And I was very excited to be amongst a company like Calvin Harris and Kylie
Wow.
Minogue. And that was really awesome. And then put out a second single last year called Pyramid, hit number 6 on the pop chart in the UK. And I think that was really sort of the sort of inspiration behind my EP, which is coming out in August. And so I think to that, I say no matter your age, no matter what your passions are, where you're at in your life, if you can put a little bit of time for you and maybe go back to the things that brought you joy or made you happy, particularly in this administration, because we all need some sort of escape. Go do it. I don't think there isn't really a time limit on success. I don't think there's a time limit on revisiting your joys, right? The things that made you happy when you were younger. So
Yeah.
anyway, in a nutshell, that is who I am. So hi, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, cool, cool. But the American Idol thing is really fascinating to me because at the time, and it wasn't that long ago that you were on. I mean, it was a while ago, but not like so long ago that it should be that different. But it is that different now. Where you were going on, I don't know if they actually said anything to you specifically or addressed any of that stuff, but it would have been difficult to come out during the time you were competing because that could have gotten in the way of the competition and it could have even cost you because of the climate of the country and the voting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that the bulk of the audience that tunes into that show actually is sort of the more the southern states. And
Yes.
um yeah, I even remember that, when cameras were always on me, I just it was sort of like this automatic like, drop your voice a little bit lower.
Mm.
Be a little less, animated,
Yeah.
right? Because growing up, I mean, yes, it's partly because I'm gay, but also because growing up with two deaf parents, screaming doesn't do anything. So you have to sort of over exaggerate. And so that sort of came as a natural thing growing up. And so I just became super hyper aware of my actions, the way I spoke, how I dressed, and I just didn't want to lose an opportunity based off of my sexuality.
Right.
And so I was very cautious.
And I think it was automatic too, like you said. It wasn't something that had to be premeditated. Like I don't think even the signing the lyrics for you that wasn't
Yeah,
premeditated either. It just happened. You were kind of
no,
going with the flow of what things were telling you to do, right? So in that, the climate was telling you also don't come out, don't let anybody know that you're this because it's going to hurt you.
it
Even if
was,
they didn't have to actually say it or write it in anything or put it in a
yeah,
contract, but you just knew this wasn't the thing to do. This is not going to be a good thing.
it was just be a different person.
Yes.
Just be a different version of this because this isn't good. So,
And then when you start to get in notoriety, there is that threat of somebody outing you, especially 10
yeah.
years ago or more, because that was how some people made their money outing other people in gossip and all that. So you really did have to kind of circumvent that and try to figure out how do you tell your story on your terms instead of waking up one morning and finding somebody had snapped a photo of you and started this whole story of their own.
Well, that's sort of what happened is I was at the Abbey for an event and the Globe
Mm-hmm.
did this huge two-page spread and outed me. And, at when you're so young, when you're just 19 years old, a part of me was like, oh my God, thanks so much for caring. That's amazing. And then the other part of me was just like, damn it. Like I was just like not prepared to kind of navigate that. And so, this was when the National Enquirer and the Globe, like they were things, like they paid a lot of money to do all these things. And it just wasn't on my terms. And so that was sort of the force that, said, because that was when Out came to me, Advocate came to me, and they were like, can we get the exclusive? And so I just wasn't prepared. It just wasn't how I would have done it. I would have gotten there eventually, but everything happens for a reason. So,
And the sad part about that too is there was some gay bloggers that were actually in that market too. So they were kind of exploiting their own
yeah,
community by outing them and making money off of it. So that was something you had to be mindful of. And then it could have become an ugly rumor instead of something that was actually just natural and normal.
right. Which I think is now we're in such a beautiful place with it
Yeah.
all, but it came with a price, 23 years ago. So,
Now, do you watch the new iteration of American Idol with the new judges and the new formats and the things that are going on?
so I just watched this last one because I was doing sort of an idol review for a news station, and it's pretty incredible because the budget is insane. Because when I was on the show, we didn't have stylists. They gave us a Visa credit card and told us to go to a mall to buy our
Wow.
clothes. So that's what we did. And not to mention, like, they have like on-set therapists and like coaches. And it's like we sang to track. It was literally karaoke for like the first, like, it was until like we got to big band night where Kelly and everyone else had like an actual live, band backing them. But we were fed Twizzlers and Nutri-Grain bars, and now these kids are like buying homes
Mm.
from being on the show. So it's clearly come a long way. But to be honest with you, I would not change anything about being on the first season. I think it's one of the few seasons that you really connect with us as contestants because it's not about the judges. It's not about, premeditated drama. It's not about scripted drama. It's not about sponsorship and Coca-Cola or Ford Focus commercials, right? I think it was just really about these 10 kids who had no idea what was going to happen. There was no precursor. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know that a tour was coming. You didn't know that you were going to be on an album and you would sell 800,000 copies. You didn't know that was coming. So we really were just every day it was like different, and it was so fun to kind of be surprised. And some of us got to be in an Old Navy commercial, and like there was just fun things that we just were so grateful for. And whereas now you kind of know sort of what to expect and what's coming,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah. Yours is more authentic, like I said before, and it was more like go with the flow. Well, what's coming next? And I'll just do
yeah.
it because it's great. But also they had it was before it actually got mixed in with reality TV because at that point reality TV was a genre of its own, and then this was a competition thing. So we never saw that before. So once
Right.
it started being tainted, I think, by the reality TV stuff, that's when it started with the drama and the, sympathetic stories and more going into that part and exploiting a little bit of that. So I think that was a good thing too that you got before it kind of got merged
Yeah.
reality TV.
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, this was sort of very. I mean, Ellen DeGeneres had just come out, like just maybe like a year or two, I think, prior before Idol came out. So again, just such a different climate,
Yeah.
you know.
And then you got to do a lot of firsts because you were the first in the first season. You were
Yeah,
the first person to sign your lyrics. Then you probably were the first one from the group to do acting because it was such a new thing.
yeah,
And yeah, so a lot of
yeah,
it gave you like it put you as a accidental spokesperson for the community, which was a good thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I said a top. I had a Billboard. I was the first,
yeah,
idol to chart that was gay on the Billboard chart too. So it was a lot of firsts. I think that I'm grateful. I look back with a lot of gratitude, obviously, for the opportunities that came, but it also, it came at a price on the other side, right? I mean, I think, now we see such incredible representation, whereas back then we had none.
yeah.
And here I was 19, just being like, hi, like I'm here, I can do that, and I just need someone, to believe in me. Like Lady Gaga says, all you need is one out of 99 people, right, to believe in you. So it's just interesting how like that sort of shaped my ability to kind of combat being openly gay at a time when it really wasn't. It wasn't common.
And even Pride wasn't such a big budgeted thing like it is now, where you could get
Yeah,
Rebecca Black. Apparently, she's been doing. I didn't realize until I saw her in LA, but she's been doing the Pride circuit for a while because she came out
yeah,
and she's been doing that. But she's making
yeah.
a living doing that because there's a budget now to bring people in like that. Where before,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
you're
Yeah,
just
I've
performing.
heard
You're
that.
lucky to perform.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's so true. I mean, I remember negotiating my rates back then. This was, probably 2003, 2004, and I would be lucky to get like a grand, and that wouldn't cover transportation, so it was really tough to try and make a living. I wasn't working a 9 to 5 job. I was just trying to make it work, so it was challenging for sure.
When you do watch the new American, or when you did watch the new American Idol, did you think that it was a little bit less? Now it's become a little bit less reality TV because I feel like they're not really doing the exploitation stories. It's a little. It kind of seems like it comes back to being that authentic thing a little bit. I think it's because the judges' personalities too.
Yeah, I agree. I do think with the personalities of like Luke, Obviously, you have, Carrie was sort of like the new, kind of wild card this year.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that they're just sort of to the point, and there's not a ton of personality there. Not a lot of conflict, right? I mean, the days when we had Nicki Minaj and Mariah Carey, like that was when it was just, crazy town.
yeah.
But that added an element, right? I mean, that added kind of interest and for people to tune in. I mean, Simon, I don't know that the show would have been that successful if Simon Cowell had not been a part of it.
Right.
I think that he was a draw, and I think he had his way to say certain things, and you either agreed with him or, you were strongly against him. But again, he was controversial, and I think that was part of the success. So now it does feel a little more authentic. This past season um, felt very spiritual in
Yeah,
terms of sort of the overall feel of the
yeah.
show, which I found to be interesting.
It even felt nurturing a little bit because I feel like the those three judges, especially, they kind of nurtured people more
Yeah,
without
for
necessarily being um, taking them under their wing, but they were just being as nurturing as they could be from far away.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. They seem supportive. There's no reason to be mean. There's no reason to be and they kind of just let America make their decision. They don't really say a whole lot. They're kind of like, hey, this is for America. You're the one, judging. So they sort of, try not to manipulate that, at all.
So far in your career, because it's going well and it's going to keep going forever. But what are you most proud of so far up until this point?
Oh gosh. This is probably not going to be the clearest answer, but I think it's sort of the resilience part of going through this. I think, for a long time after Idol, I wasn't even sure that I should sing just because of just the beating I just took on that show. And, prior to being on that show, I always considered myself a decent singer. I competed in state competitions. Like I won competitions in junior, like in high school. I sang national anthems often. I performed in musicals. And to be on a stage with millions of people watching and, you know, the feedback not being great. Um, I think it's hard because like people sort of fixate on this one bad moment that you have, and that doesn't necessarily define you as a singer. It's anybody can have a bad night. Anybody can choose the wrong song.
Sure.
And so many parts of that, you know, can alter someone's competition, like where they stand. And so for a while I was just like, I am not a singer, and I'm not doing that. And I'm really funny, and I should be, you know, hosting, or I should be on a sitcom or something. And it wasn't until a producer had reached out to me, Gabe Lopez, who produced my first album, Rollercoaster, was just like, no, you're singing and we're going to do this.
I know
And
Gabe. He's a good guy.
yeah, he's awesome. And like he was the one that was just like, no, we're doing this. I'm doing this with you. And he worked with me for like 2 years, and we got very close, and we built out a record, and it was ready to basically, present to a label to distribute. So I think going through that, you know, arriving to this place in my life now at 42, and having the courage to be like, you know what? I'm gonna put some shit out there. Like it, don't like it. Like I have been judged in my life enough. Like, and so now it's really more for me and the people that stood by me at that time. They've grown up with me too, and they're incredible people. And the fact that Rollercoaster just turned, 20 is beyond my like. I just can't grasp that. But so many people are just like, I bought that album, and you don't know what having that did for me. And, being openly gay and hearing this from an openly gay artist, like there was just nothing out there like it. Um, it's for them. Like it's for the people that are still connected to me, and, still reach out on social media. And so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of coming this far.
And I think we appreciate that you stuck with it, and I think we appreciate that you're still around, and that we have you to go to for comfort in a way, like because the community is that way where you gravitate towards someone who you see doing things that even if it's not something you wanted to do, but doing things
Yeah,
in a bigger way and
yeah.
being a voice, and like you were kind of thrown into being a voice whether you liked it or not, but you were a voice for us, and that I think we all do appreciate that.
That means a lot. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I mean, could have just, but you also have to realize that in this day and age, you can still be the host of a show. You could still be
Yeah.
a sitcom and do your music at the same time. I mean, Reba McEntire, she does it all, so you can do it all too.
Women are killing it right now, in their careers. But I think that, I think that we are seeing a little bit of a shift in terms of, I mean, as you know this, Tommy, I think youth is very much adored upon, like in our community, and I get that. But I think sometimes when you reach, your late 30s, your 40s, your 50s, I think the best is yet to come. I think that's really when we start to get to the best parts of ourselves because it's being gay is so full of growing pains, right? You're sort of constantly adjusting yourself, and it takes a really long time for us to sort of arrive at a point where we allow ourselves to be loved, we love others,
Yeah,
and there is no one way street to make that happen, but it's only then where you've gone through relationships and you learn more about yourself and others that you get to be the best part of yourself because we've outgrown some of the insecurities that we have. And we really realize that at the end of the day we all just want to be loved, and friends are everything. And so I think that we're starting to see a lot more, I hope, I think a lot more connectivity within our community and a lot more less ageism, body
oh,
shaming,
I,
all of that. And I think we can truly just look at each other as just, hey, like you are truly a member of my community, like my family. So that is what I think I am seeing and that I love to see.
I hope so.
So
Because I think as you go on too, you start learning who you really are. Because we're always trying to please
yeah,
everybody else. At first, we're hiding it to please everybody. Then we finally do come out, and we're still trying to be what everybody wants us to be. So you're not gay enough. You're too gay. You're this and that. And you finally find who you are. It's a lot of years, and then you're
right,
finally happy with who you are, and you accept it.
right.
So that is a rough journey to go on.
True. I mean, and I can't even imagine, how things have shifted, even just since then, just with our government,
Hmm.
with with our trans community and all of that. But I think that we are constantly evolving because we have learned to put away pieces of ourselves that others don't like. And so we spend sort of the later part pulling them all together and putting those pieces back, right? So,
Yep. And who would you say that your musical influences have been the most over the years?
I mean, it will always forever be George Michael. He's always been at the center um, of everything. I met him one time and I was such an idiot because I waited in line at like Virgin Megastore in LA, and he had an album release party, or not party, but release signing. And I gave him a demo that Gabe and I had, were working, and I was just like, he had his sunglasses on. He was very demure and very sort of understated. And I even had a performance like that night or the day after, and I put my number in it, and I was like, "Please come," and it was just so stupid and silly. Probably just like threw it away. But I just coming from like Greek, backgrounds and being gay and I just felt like a lot of commonality with him, and he just exemplified not only just incredible voice, but just an incredible songwriter. Um, so he's always at the forefront, and then it's sort of like a marriage between like George Michael and Britney. Like Britney will also forever be at the core of
Yeah.
pop music for me. Like she really was it. And I still think a lot of, gay men like my age sort of, believe that too. And maybe we're always going to root for her no matter what.
We
But
wanted to come back.
I mean, listen, Blackout is one of the best pop records of all time.
Yeah.
And she did incredible things. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's always a compliment to me. If someone's like, hey, this is very Britney, like,
Mhm.
Finch. And I'm like, great. I love that.
Yeah. And what are you most passionate about? Do you think it's the acting still, or is it the music, or everything, or is it more personal life stuff at this point?
Yeah, that's a good question. What am I passionate about? I have a tendency to sort of go from 0 to like 180 in everything I do. So, my full-time job is as a technical recruiter, diversity has been at like the very heart of hiring for the company that I work for. And so, um, I'm very passionate about, women in tech. I'm passionate about people of color in tech. Um, I love being able to change the landscape of what a company can look like. I'm very passionate about just helping people. But I also love of creating, and I don't know what that's going to mean in the future. I would love to do another film. That would be a lot of fun.
Maybe you play
Um,
George Michael.
oh my God, yeah,
I think you could
please.
do it.
That would be incredible. I I think the sky's the limit. I'm not going to limit myself to anything. I think that's the beauty of like getting into your 40s is that you're so much more open to things. And, I just think I'm so much less of a no guy, and more of like, yeah, let's give it a go, right? I've got nothing to lose. I mean, I feel like, my career has literally been all over the place and, it's probably more quiet now than it has been, but I don't know. I still think there's still the best is yet to come.
Mm. But I think you make your own noise too now
Yeah.
with Instagram and Spotify. I think that what you're on and you have to kind of like be an advocate for yourself. So I think
Yeah.
you don't really go quiet. You just kind of like make your own noise at this point until somebody else comes along and goes, "Wait a minute, we should be making the noise for him." They just have to
Yeah.
wait for that moment to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough thing about being, a trailblazer like so long ago is that I think we forget, and I use this example of Madonna, all the time. And I just wish that like the younger generation would understand what she did for our community and how she was incredibly outspoken at a time when, in the late, 80s, early 90s, when it was so incredibly taboo. But this was a woman that stuck her neck out constantly, for us. And so say what you will about her, still performing at 65. That woman is an icon and she can perform for as long as she fucking wants
That's
to.
right.
She earned that right to do
Yes.
that. So I don't know. I just think it's always nice to kind of pay homage and it's always nice to kind of look back at the people that did it in a time where it was in so much more challenging and dangerous at sometimes to be, supportive of our community.
Yeah. And it seems like you are supportive of the community you belong to. Like you said, you go back to do things for Idol here and there. So how does that work for you? Like, is Idol still very much a part of your life where you feel like you do give back to that as much as you can?
No, because they don't really give anything to me. Like
Okay.
they,
So they're not
I
reaching
mean,
out.
yeah, like post show, like they kind of they don't celebrate, I think unless you've won the show, they don't really celebrate your like past idols, which I think is kind of a disservice because
You can do that.
there's just so many idols that like are so incredible. Like, David Hernandez, like David Archuleta, like Michaela Gordon, like, even like Todrick Hall, which people forget that he was on Idol too. You know, it only serves Idol to show what success can look like, even if you don't win. So to talk about I mean, they should be promoting any Idol that has a project out because Idol was a part of their journey, and so I think it's kind of sad in a way that they don't really support, you know, their
They could
prior
do
idols.
so much because they could even do so much even in the communities, like in the gay community, they could do the whole thing with Idol, where like if there was no you, there might not have been a Michaela and a
Right.
David Hernandez, because I'm friends with David and I know he was in that situation where he was keeping it quiet when he was on
Yeah.
and he was outed. So like those things might not have happened if it wasn't for the first people to do it. And then all the other people to do it, because then if there was no David Hernandez, there wouldn't be whoever went on this year because of his story like that.
Totally.
So they
I
could
mean,
totally connect that.
I agree. And I think that's a missed opportunity for them. But I mean, Idol's going to do what Idol's going to do. But I think it's important to note that, if people are big Idol fans, like follow these people because they're doing incredible things and they're
Yeah.
still like David Hernandez, like he's also a good friend of mine. Like I'm always texting him and like, oh my God, you sounded amazing. Or like, oh my God, I love this video. Or like, oh my God, like,
And he's doing the whole prize circuit thing and touring and
he's got dancers and he like also is doing a ton of acting right now. Like he is still like he's like literally like talk about the best is yet to come. Like I feel like he's just hitting his
oh my
stride
God, yeah.
now.
Yes.
And even Michaela, who has like a Vegas residency
Oh
and is
yeah, who
killing
hasn't
it.
heard of that?
Like, I
They
mean,
do the thing.
if you can do this for like 15, 20 years after the fact, that's pretty incredible. So I think there's a lot of talent that comes out of this show. You just don't see them because, Idol doesn't lift them up the way that they should, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, no, not at all. But I think maybe all these people should get together and do their own thing. Like maybe what I was saying.
Do a tour. I should be like the best of and just pick
Yeah,
like idols together and be like, hey, let's go on tour. Let's see what happens. You know what I
mhm.
mean?
That would be amazing because I think they would all do it. I'm sure.
That would be fun to do like a summer tour sponsored by something homosexual. I can't think of it, but yeah.
Some lube company or
Absolute,
something.
absolute vodka.
Of the absolute vodka, dude. I think we had when David Hernandez did his last video premiere, we did it at the Abbey, and I think Absolute was one of the sponsors
Yeah,
we had because I helped him produce the event. So it was
I
like
love that.
the
That turned
coolest
out
thing.
incredible. That was
That
amazing.
was
Yeah.
such a great event. I loved it. And I love being just part of it because I was like, and when he told me, he's like, I'm gonna put your name on the thing. I was like, what? My name's gonna be why? He's like, because you're part of it. I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm
It's,
proud. I don't care. I
it's
always
just,
proud to do something with those that group of people. Like if I produce something with them or
yeah,
it's always fun to do that.
totally.
Because
Yeah,
they're all just authentic people. It's not like they're not walking around thinking like, I was on Idol and I'm the it's not. It's not.
right. No, there's just incredible talent that comes out of that show. So,
And speaking of making your own noise, where can
yeah.
people find you online if they want to follow you and stalk you and hear all the new things you're coming with, like the new album and the new single
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
video?
So, I'm probably the most active on Instagram. So I'm just at Jim Verraros. So follow me on there. The EP is coming in August. I'm going to be making an announcement very soon. And I hope everybody likes it. I've got, tons of promo on the way and it's going to be short and sweet, but it'll be a lot of fun. It's very sexy. And it just feels like a grown-up kind of version of me. So I hope people tune into it.
Cool. That's really cool. And I hope you come back to discuss it because I'd love
Yeah,
to.
of course. If you'll have me, I would love that.
Oh, anytime you want. If you literally send me a message, I would be like, okay, next week, let's do it.
Let's do it. I
If you
would
want,
love
just keep
to do
doing
it.
it. You could be like a recurring guest. It's not a problem.
Love it. Love that.
I'll do like an extra episode a month if I have to.
Oh
Just
my
squeeze you
God.
in. Why
Perfect.
not? Bonus episode
Love it. Let's do it.
with our friend Jim.
Yay.
Yay. So, what is one thing that you absolutely cannot live without in this entire world?
Oh. Oof. What's one thing I cannot live without? Um, I think um my friends probably. They're few and far between.
Mhm.
As we get older, I think our circle tends to get smaller, but the ones that have kind of stuck by me, those are the ones that kind of keep me sane. So yeah, and my husband, obviously.
Okay.
So
What is one thing that you wish we could all live without, besides the president? But
definitely that's tough. That's tough.
that's it. That's
Um,
too much of a given.
I think fear. I wish that we could all, and that comes on, very just so many different ways. But I think that if we could all just live without fear, I think it holds us back from doing things. It holds us back from being our authentic selves. I think it can be incredibly stunting to anyone's development, just in terms of like what they want to do, how they perceive themselves, and if we all just let go of the fear, like what could we do? And I think that is something I wish for all of us to let go of.
If you could go back to the moment before you went on Idol and
Mhm.
tell yourself something, what message would you go back and tell that kid that was getting ready to go on Idol?
Do not stop. No matter what anybody tells you, do not stop and keep going. Is what I wish I would have said to myself.
In the moment, you don't think about that though, because you're so caught up in the moment of the things. And I can't imagine what it would be like to get up and be in front of those people that are like Paula Abdul. You knew her from all
Yeah.
these things. Now you got to stand in front of her and she's gonna critique you, and you're like, what? Like that? No, I don't
It,
know.
it was a mind fuck. I mean, especially her. I was just like, you are like a legend,
Yeah,
and I grew up. I mean, that was like someone I grew up with, and but to have her be there and to be so kind and so loving. I mean, she's one of my favorite people.
and she's still very supportive of you guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I mean, she definitely. I've seen her with everybody, and she pops up here and there.
she's just the kindest human ever. I remember her buying my album.
Mm.
'Cause I went to and I went to Idol at some point after my album came out, and she was just proud of me, and she like had it, and she was like, "I have it. I'm so proud of you." And yeah, she's just the real deal. It just doesn't get better than her. She's the best.
And because I'm not familiar with the process of it all, when you sign lyrics, is there
Yep.
any difference in that than like when you're signing a song? Is it different than just signing words?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
because there isn't a sign for every single word, you
Okay.
know. So sometimes you have to either, you know, you have to maybe spell something out rather than, or there's also a difference between American Sign Language and like someone that sort of grew up signing, right? They
Gotcha.
call it like home sign, right? So like I didn't go to school for it. So ASL is a much stricter um, that's those are the people that like go to interpret at like court hearings, right? Because you have to be certified and you have to, it's a legal thing. Obviously, you want to make sure that every word is as right on as possible. But there isn't a sign for every single word in the English language. So sometimes you have to spell it or maybe choose a letter of it and then corroborate it with like emotion that is adjacent to the word. So it's never as clear cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So when they put you on the spot and asked you to do that, that was difficult to do then because
Totally. Because
not something
I
just
was like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm sure there were members of the deaf community that were probably embarrassed. But I just wasn't prepared. I didn't think that that was going to happen. So I did the best with what I knew.
I think you did really well for yourself though. I think looking back at it, I would say that it was the first and it probably affected so many people. Like you never know how many people you're affecting when you're doing the thing that you think is just normal.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when I remember them asking, during the first round of auditions, they said, Jim, tell us something that nobody would know just by looking at you. And so I just said, oh, my parents are deaf, and I just like said it as if well, because that was my life. And that wasn't odd to me. I didn't think it was, you know, abnormal. I was just like, well, this is just who I am and
Yeah.
this is my life. And so they just, totally just took it in like, a massive storytelling direction and like kind of focused in on it and leaned in, which I get it, it's reality. But to me, I just didn't really think it was that, groundbreaking.
Yeah, because it's your life, so you don't. But when we're looking at our own life from our own lens, we're not seeing what somebody else is going to see when they
Yeah.
see it. But I think it would make a great book and probably make a really good movie. I mean, that's another thing.
Yeah. Maybe
Tour, the
I should write
book,
a book.
movie. That's a lot of things to do.
Good. I'm very busy. I'm gonna have
I'm just
so
going to
much
give
to
you a bunch
do.
of tasks to do. We'll figure it out later.
Easy tasks, clearly.
Easy little things. I'll check in on you every once in a while. It's been a pleasure, like talking to you, and you're everything that I expected you were going to be, for
Oh,
sure,
thank
because
you.
you're so authentic online.
I appreciate that. Thank you for sticking with me and for getting me to do this. I really appreciate you and you doing this too, for us and for our community and to bring people on this and to give them a platform. So thank you for having this
It's always
conversation.
good to find people who are doing positive things that we can
Yeah,
actually highlight in a world that wants to highlight all the negative things all the time, right? So
so right.
we
You're
want to
so
try to bring that out. There are good people doing
love
good
that.
things and they're sticking with it, and that's good. Just remind everybody where is best to find you. So
Yeah. So find me on Instagram. I'm at Jim Verraros and go ahead and follow me there and I'll get you in the loop of what's going on.
yes, an album comes out August, and we'll be talking again, I hope, and
Yes.
even getting a little clip of music. That'll be fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love
Thank you
that.
so much for taking time because I know
Oh,
crazy schedule and it's hot as heck.
it is. Thank you so much for having me, Tommy. I appreciate you.
Anytime, I'm telling you, I'm serious about that.
I'll
And
let you
maybe I'll
know.
get a few. Maybe I will get a few of you together, and we'll just do like a
That would be really
Brady
fun.
Bunch kind of thing with all the
Love
little.
that. Let's
That'll
do
be
that.
cool. I'll talk
I'm
to
so
David.
on
I'll
board.
talk to David. We'll figure it out.
Love it. I love that idea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.